Hello and welcome to another session of Let's Learn German. I hope you revised the previous sessions and you are ready to learn something new. As I told you in the last session, this session we are going to do again Modal Verben. In the previous sessions we did 3 Modal Verben, and in this session we are going to do the 4th Modal Verb, which is the verb sollen. So, here again the verb sollen has got many meanings, out of which 2 important meanings are that this verb is used to give either advice, what we call in German Ratschlag, or a suggestion, which is in German called Vorschlag, or it is also used to convey a concept of duty, what we call in German Pflicht, or obligation, which is Verpflichtung. Well, I would like to tell you that here it is important for you to recognize in the sentence which meaning is conveyed when the sentence carries the verb sollen. Now, let us see the conjugation of the verb sollen. As you are familiar that we conjugate the verb according to the pronouns in singular and in plural. Now, let us see the conjugation of singular pronouns for the verb sollen. Ich soll, du sollst, sie es soll, sie sollen. And again I would like to remind you, Modal Verben carry the same conjugation for the pronoun ich and soll. So, we have ich soll and sie es soll. And if you see here, for the other pronouns sie sollen, wir sollen, ihr sollt, sie sollen and sie sollen, the conjugation pattern remains the same. So, only for the singular pronouns ich, du, sie and es there is a change. However, as you can see, there are no umlauts for the conjugation of the verb sollen. Now, let us look at the conjugation of the verb sollen through some examples and also the meanings. Du sollst schlafen. Here, as you can see, the verb sollen has been conjugated according to the pronoun du with the ending st, and also the infinitive verb schlafen is here at the end. Ihr sollt Oma respektieren. Here, the verb sollen has been conjugated according to the pronoun ihr, and the infinitive verb is at the end, respektieren, which means to respect, and Oma means grandmother. Sie sollen Tiere nicht quälen. Here the verb sollen has been conjugated according to the pronoun sie, and here we have the accusative here, which means animals, Tiere, and quälen is the infinitive verb, and the verb means to torture. Now, let us do some examples for the verb conjugation sollen. Ihr sollt die Arbeit beenden. Now, here the verb sollen has been conjugated according to the pronoun ihr, and we mark the infinitive verb at the end, beenden, which means to end, and here we have a noun, die Arbeit, which means work. Du sollst nicht mehr rauchen. Now, here we have conjugated the verb sollen according to the pronoun du, and we have the verb at the end, which is in the infinitive form, rauchen, which means to smoke. Meine Mutter sagt, ich soll Medizin studieren. Now, here we have the conjugation of the verb sollen according to the pronoun ich, and here first of all we mark the infinitive verb at the end, which is studieren, which means to study, Medizin, which means to study medicine. Now, sentence number 4, Sie sollen im Büro leiser sprechen. Here we have conjugated the verb sollen according to the pronoun sie. We mark the infinitive verb which is at the end. Sprechen, which you know means to speak, leiser means quietly. Soll mehr studieren. Now here we have conjugated the verb sollen according to the pronoun First of all, we mark the verb at the end which is in the infinitive form, which is studieren, and we have written the conjugation of the verb also. Now, as you can see, the conjugation of the verb sollen is not that difficult. So, let us do an exercise where the student would write the correct conjugation of the verb sollen and also mark the infinitive verb. Now, let us look at the answers given by the student and see if the answers are right or wrong. Here, the student wrote, as you can see, the correct conjugation of the verb sollen as du sollst and also marked the infinitive verb at the end. Ihr sollt nicht mehr Fernsehen. This sentence is correct. The student wrote the correct conjugation of the verb sollen according to the pronoun ihr and marked the infinitive verb. Mein Arzt sagt, ich soll nicht mehr rauchen. Here also the student wrote the correct conjugation of the verb sollen as soll for the pronoun ich and also marked the verb at the end which is in the infinitive form. Wir sollen im Büro nicht laut sprechen. Here also the student correctly wrote the conjugation of the verb with the pronoun wir and marked the verb at the end in the infinitive form. Meine Tochter ist müde, sie soll mehr schlafen. You know the meaning of the word Tochter. Müde means tired. Here also the student correctly identified that the pronoun sie here refers to the noun Tochter, which is a third person feminine pronoun in singular, and wrote the correct conjugation of the verb here for the verb sollen and also marked the verb at the infinitive. Was sollen die Kinder machen? Here also the student correctly identified that the conjugation of the verb for the plural noun Kinder is sollen, which is written here, and also marked the infinitive verb at the end. Now, in this segment, we are going to do two more modal verbs, which are wollen and möchten. Let me tell you, wollen and möchten may appear similar, but they convey always a different meaning. Now, wollen predominantly has got two different contexts. It is used to show a plan or an intention. An intention in German is called Absicht, or to show a very strong wish. Wish in German is called Wunsch. And möchten, the other modal verb in our list, or the last modal verb, it is basically a modified version of wollen, which is used to show a desire or wish to do something. If we have to distinguish between wollen and möchten, möchten is a weaker verb in terms of meaning compared to wollen. Now, let us look at the conjugation of the verbs wollen and möchten. We would start with the verb conjugation of wollen. Wollen, when it is conjugated in singular and plural pronoun, here as you can see, it takes a different form. Now, when we read it, ich will, du willst, es will, sie wollen, wir wollen, ihr wollt, sie wollen and sie wollen. You see that for the pronouns ich, du, es, there is no O, and the O has been replaced by the vowel I. And as you know that the conjugation of the modal verb with first person and third person is always same. So, we have here ich will, and the same goes for es, which is will. Also, as you can see, in the rest of the pronouns, the conjugation remains same except a minor change for the pronoun ihr, where the ending t is taken. Now, let us look at the conjugation of the verb möchten. Möchten, as you can see, does not make any change in its form when it is attached to singular pronouns. Here, it has the same form, ich möchte, with the same e at the end, du möchtest, est at the end, sie es möchte, sie möchten, wir möchten, ihr möchtet, sie möchten and sie möchten. So, the rule applies, which you know, is that the first person conjugation of modal verb and the third person conjugation of the modal verb remains same here. Otherwise, there is no other structural change happening for the verb möchten. The change is happening only for the verb wollen. Now, let us do some examples for the verbs wollen and möchten. Now, let us see the conjugation of the verb wollen in this sentence. Wir wollen ein Haus kaufen, and here we mark the infinitive verb at the end. Here we have the verb möchten in bracket and the pronoun sie. So, we conjugate it according to the pronoun capital M, because it is the beginning of the sentence. Möchten Sie nach Hause gehen. Here in sentence number 3, we have the pronoun and the verb in the bracket is wollen. Now, we have to conjugate it according to this pronoun, which will be will Mathematik studieren. Mathematik is mathematics. Möchten du jetzt schlafen? Here we have the pronoun du, and here we will conjugate the verb möchten with M as capital, and you know that verbs with du are always conjugated with the ending st. Meine Kinder ins Kino gehen. Here in bracket we have the verb wollen. Kinder, as you know, is a plural form for the noun Kind, which so we write meine Kinder wollen ins Kino gehen and mark the infinitive verb. And here also we mark the infinitive verb. Meine Tochter wollen ins Kino gehen. Here meine Tochter in singular. So, meine Tochter will ins Kino gehen and mark the infinitive verb. Die Studenten einen Ausflug machen. We have the verb möchten here. Studenten is the plural noun of the singular noun student. So, we write the conjugation möchten and mark the infinitive verb at the end. Now, there is an exercise where the student would write the correct conjugation of the verbs wollen and möchten and also underline the infinitive verb. Now, let us look at the answers given by the student. Möchtest du heute ins Kino gehen? Here we had the verb möchten in the infinitive form. The student correctly conjugated it according to the pronoun du and also marked the verb at the end in the infinitive form. Ali möchte Deutsch lernen. Here also the student correctly identified that the given noun is in the third person singular and wrote the correct conjugation of the verb möchten and also marked the verb at the end. Will Schauspieler werden. Here also the student correctly identified the conjugation of the verb based on the third person singular pronoun and wrote the answer will and marked the infinitive verb at the end werden. Here you have a word Schauspieler which means actor and the verb werden means to become. Ich will heute nicht länger arbeiten. Here also student correctly identified that the verb conjugation for wollen with ich is will and also marked the infinitive verb at the end. Wollt ihr schlafen? Here also the student correctly identified the conjugation of the verb wollen with the pronoun ihr and as you can see the verb is at the first position and if you remember verbs with the first position are usually yes or no questions. Ihr Mann will ins Konzert gehen. Here the student correctly identified that the given noun here refers to her husband, therefore it is third person singular and it has been conjugated accordingly will and the student has also marked the infinitive verb at the end. Möchtet ihr jetzt frühstücken? Here the student correctly identified the conjugation of the verb möchten according to the pronoun ihr and also identified that the verb at the infinitive and let me tell you the meaning of this verb frühstücken means to take breakfast. Möchtest du heute Abend ausgehen? Here also the student correctly identified the conjugation of the verb möchten according to the pronoun du and also marked the verb at the end in the infinitive form. So, in this session we did 3 modal verbs which are sollen, wollen and möchten. We learnt the different meanings attached to these verbs and we also learnt how these verbs are conjugated, and we also did certain examples and also various exercises for these verbs. I would like to tell you that modal verben are a special category of verbs and require a lot of practice and attention. Therefore, please revise the sessions which had modal verben and revise them on a regular basis. Also, please revise your nouns, your verbs and their conjugations and also articles, and try to learn them on a regular basis. And as I always say, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss.